Assalamu alaikum, great sex, how are you? I hope you're okay and good health. So, today we're gonna start in quarter number 4, and we start in the new book physics that's talking about the force and motion, and this is big phenomena in physics. And we're starting in chapter 1 talking about the motion, lesson 1 talking about the describing motion. So, what is the relationship between the motion and forces? That's in this is book what we're talking about, and this is lesson we only talking about the motion and describing the objects in motion. Before going in this is lesson, we should watch in this is video and describing how this is train in motion. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so this is video describe the object in motion. In this video we have two objects in motion, train and the man riding the train. This is two objects in motion in the same motion. So how can describing this is objects in motion? That's what we're learning in this is video or in this is lesson. So Nicolaus Copernicus. What's this name? That's the name of man or first scientist, that's ancient scientists or actually physics that's talking about the motion and how describing the objects in motion. So look at what this is man said every apparent change in respect of object is due to motion of the objects observed or of the observer, or indeed to the to an equal change of both. So that's describing the motion. Motion is just change the position due to the another object. So we can watch in this video to understand deeply.
How can you tell if an object is in motion? An object is in motion if its position changes relative to another object. Let's look at an example. The man is in motion relative to the buildings and trees. In this example, the buildings and the trees are reference points. A reference point is a place or object used for comparison to determine if something is in motion. If the man is now a reference point, which object is in motion relative to him? The car is now the object in motion. Now, if you saw this scene, would you think that any objects were in motion? If you use the buildings or the trees as a reference point, then the answer is no. But what if you use the sun as a reference point? Watch what happens through the course of a day. Relative to the sun, Earth is moving. It is revolving around the sun at a rate of 30 kilometers a second. As Earth spins, the sun appears to move across the sky.
So this is all that we're talking about the motion and how describing the motion between two objects. So we have two objects, one reference point to another. So we can measuring the motion that's changing the position due to or relative to another object. So motion, or when is an object in motion, you can watching this is boy in this car riding the car, and when the car that's stopping suddenly, the body of this is boy that's go forward. Why? Because that's keeping in motion, keeping this is body in motion of the car. So motion is the change of position relative to reference point. What's the meaning of reference point? Reference point is the place or object used for comparison to determine if something is in motion. Again, motion is the change of position relative to reference point. Reference point is the comparison determining something in motion. You can watching this video to understanding what's the meaning of the reference point.
In order to describe the position of an object, you need a reference point and a set of reference directions. It is difficult to describe the position of the car because we do not have a reference point. A reference point can be any object. In this case, we will use a tree. Note that the reference point can also be referred to as the origin. The car is in front of the tree. We use the tree as our reference point and in front of as our reference direction to help us describe the position of.
So this tree is the reference point to this car. So this is not only describing the motion but describing the motion and direction of motion in this car. So reference point is the point or object that's describing another object in motion.
The car. A plus sign or minus sign can be used to express the position of an object relative to the reference point. Here we use a plus sign to show that the car is in front of the tree. Now, the car is behind the tree. The tree is still our reference point, but now the reference direction is behind. We use a negative sign to show that the car is behind the tree. Let's move the car to the right of the.
Okay, that's enough. That's describing the how meaning or what's meaning of the reference point, what's the relation between reference point and describing the motion. Now we're going to relative motion. What is the meaning of relative motion? So now this is lesson talking about the describing motion and what's the meaning of motion. Motion change the position of an object relative to another object that reference point, tree or house or human or anything can describing another object in motion. I called it reference point. And now we should know what's the meaning of relative motion. Relative motion is describing two objects in motions. Like this is picture. The motion may have a different appearance as viewed from a different reference from. So we can watching some points or some objects in motion and some else in stable or not in motion. So that's relative motion, that relation between two objects, one of them motion or stable like this. So that's meaning relative motion. In another session or another lesson, we're talking about the velocity, speed, and there is a relative velocity, and this is the sigma of the relative motion. Okay, you can watch this is a video that describe the relative motion to understanding wall.
Relative motion. Friends, do you know that the motion of any object depends on the motion of the observer? Here, observe that the chairs, table, and the television are not moving. Therefore, they seem to be stationary for the observer. Now, the observer gets up from his chair and walks to the window. When he raises the curtain of the window, he sees the objects outside the window are moving. Oh, actually, the observer is in the caravan. Since the observer is in motion, the objects also appear to be in motion. From
So the relative motion between the human body and the chair and the caravan and the rose, all of these objects, that's relative motion together.
this, we can say that every motion is relative to the observer. So, friends, let's start our tour of relative motion.
Excellent. So now we know what's the meaning of relative motion.
Session, we will discuss relative motion and relative velocity. Let's start our discussion with relative motion of two particles. Consider two automobiles A and B moving along the same road. Now let's say automobile A has XA as its position coordinates and B has
So
XB as its.
the relative motion between this is object and this is object or toy or this is a toy car, that's describing, and this is velocity and this is different velocity, and this what we talking about inshallah in next lesson. So that is all of relative motion. Now we should to know what is the distance and how can measuring the distance. So watching this is a figure that's describing the distance. Distance is the uh, both of 2 points. We can measure it by some units, and you can watch it. This is a man can describing or measuring the distance between A and B. Okay, to describe motion completely, you need to use units to measurement, like a distance. So international system of units SI, that's mind system of units in physics. So that's describe or due to the all units in physics or most units in physics. So do you hear about that before, like 1 meter, 100 centimeter, 1000 millimeter, all of this number that's equal together but different units. So 1 meter, that's equal 100 centimeter, that's equal 1000 millimeters. And this is meter, that's units by international system of units SI. And another 1 kilometer, that's equal 100 or 1000 meter. Distance is the length of the both between 2 points, and the SI unit for length is the meter. Meter is the distance. So meter, what's the meaning of meter? The distance from the floor to a drop knob is about 1 meter. So 1 meter is the distance between the floor and drop knob. So that's all of measuring distance. So today in this lesson we're talking about describing the motion, the meaning of motion, relative motion, reference point, and measuring the distance, and the mind units in international system units: meter, centimeter, millimeter, kilometer, and distance. What's the meaning of distance? That's describing the motion completely. So thank you for listening, and I hope you understand what I said, and I hope to study well, and goodbye.